We are absolutely delighted to have Penelope here as our February reader. Those of you that know Penelope or that saw the invitation or have seen some of the announcements know that she has done a lot in her life.
She's about to get kicked out of her own reading.
But only by my friends.
She has been a home health aide. I like this, a donut maker in a cider mill, a cosmetic sales girl at Macy's, Herald Square store, an artist model, and mostly as a college professor. She's given readings and taught workshops all over the country. She's published a novel, 4 chapbooks, and 7 books of poetry. Penelope, the story of the half-scalped woman, the pest maiden, the story of lobotomy, and A is for Anne. Mistress Hutchinson disturbs the Commonwealth. Her verse narrative is based on historical research. The Anne Hutchinson verse biography won the Oregon Book Award for poetry. Penelope's lyric collections are The Perfect Mother, Baiting the Void, May the Generations Die in the Right Order, and published, just coming out, is her newest collection called 6 Lips. Her books and individual poems have won several prizes, and she has been awarded fellowships by the New Jersey Council of the Arts and at the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, Massachusetts, Vermont Studio Center, and the Wurlitzer Foundation in Taos, New Mexico. So you see a lot of locations. Would you join me in welcoming our poet for the evening, Penelope Scambly Schott. Penelope Scambly.
Which way are you going? Okay. Okay. Get thee behind me.
That's right.
I just got my newest chapbook. It came this week. So I'll make you listen to some of it. And I have to warn you about it. I wrote this when I was at the residency in Taos, and I had this awful jaw infection, and I was on Vicodin. And the poems sound that way because there were magpies outside my window. You know all about. Were you in Casita 8? Yes, yeah. 8 is the place to be, right? And there's this tree. Okay. Well, the magpie. I don't know if I was hallucinating or they were speaking. They were speaking. Thank you, Jude. Okay. So I'm going to read from 3 different things. I have to read from my new chapbook. I'm going to read from 6 Lips, and I might read a little from A is for Anne. And I have to start with a poem out of 6 Lips that explains why I'm wearing this ridiculous wizard cloak. My mother was really quite a character. Oops, sorry, I stopped doing that. In the voice of my mother who wants to die faster. Her script insists on snare drums and tambourines, not this plinking piano draped in mulberry lace. Girl, what have I raised you for? Stab me now with the last sword of compassion. 100 hand-tufted knots on the scabbard and peridot at the hilt. Smother me under shot silk. Wash my corpse with l'eau sauvage. Dress my hair with oil of lime. Fasten my traveling cloak with a turquoise cabochon clasp. Read me a goodbye story. Read me this story. Now close the white door. She was an elegant lady. She also owned some things that my sister and I couldn't figure out, like part of a Harley-Davidson leather outfit. Go figure. Okay. This is the chapbook, Under Taos Mountain, The Terrible Quarrel of Magpie and Tia. And Tia, of course, is Spanish for auntie. So you know how somebody will address you. Hey, auntie, do this, do that. Magpie's nest. Here in my little borrowed house, I have slept under 2 blankets, a quilt, and a white bedspread. All night I have clutched at my pillow. If I owned a teddy bear, I'd have held it by the foot. I do, and I did. Now Magpie comes knocking at first light. Tia, are you jealous of my wide nest? Is that your hat up there in the tree, that really big hat, that mess of sticks? My nest is not a hat. It is not a basket. Auntie, it is a plot. So says you. See how it all connects. Pull one twig and the nest unravels. My whole life is like that, Magpie. Someday you will go back to being a pile of twigs. In our dry climate you will decay slowly. Every word you have written on the rough bark will remain legible for a while. That will be enough. Magpie confesses me. Tell me your sins, Tia. I, of course, have none. Magpie, I have sinned. I married a man I didn't love. Did you fledge the nestlings? I did. And are you truly sorry? I did what I did. Okay, tell me another. I hit a parked car and skedaddled. I do that every day. But I didn't leave any note. Auntie, you have sinned. I always leave my white calling card. Let this be your act of contrition. Splat your words on the world and be sure they are honest. Here Magpie taps my shoulder with her holy tail. Magpie, Magpie, but what if I cannot promise that? Then you are damned. Then I am damned. While I was there, my husband's very lovely mother died. This is called Magpie and my mother-in-law. Why are you weeping, Tia? My mother-in-law is dead. But a mother-in-law is a sharp knife. My mother-in-law was a soup ladle. Blessed be the soup. My mother had a beautiful smile. I, Magpie, have an iridescent tail. My mother-in-law disliked hydrangeas. I, Magpie, prefer opinions. She always called space travel wasteful. I am plump with multiple universes. And now she has traveled through a door. I have measured that door with my spirit-level tail. Tell me the door is memory. Auntie, it is sunlight, also the great clock. Magpie is not Chinese. 4 magpies peck in the dry grasses. They rush at each other in short bursts. They all look alike. Which one is mine? 3 magpies peck in the weeds. 1 magpie comes to the aspens. Tia, don't you know me by now? My particularly viridian tail? She stabs her beak toward me, pissed. What do you think? That we're all Chinese and look alike? Magpie, I'm sorry. My mother was carved out of cactus, so I only know God when she scratches my face. And I'll read you one more magpie poem. Magpie at Night. This night has too many pieces. I lie awake on my white lace pillow in a black laced room, wondering, where in the world does Magpie sleep? Tia, I sleep in the cup of the dipper, I dip my beak in the Milky Way. I watch the sleepers spinning toward morning. Magpie, why can't I sleep? You write too much, Auntie. Let your dreams lie in peace. But I need to hold on to something, the hem of the sheet, or the heat of his skin, or a pen, or this pencil I trim to a point with my knife. Poor old Auntie, you used to be smarter. You used to suck your thumb. Magpie, I almost remember. Such a warm, wet, dark. Drop your pencil. I will rock you back to sleep in a basket woven from the tails of shooting stars. So that's Magpie. And anybody who's standing, there are seats here. Would you like to come sit? Yeah, you're safe in the front row. I won't do anything awful. Well, I don't know. Did you do the homework? Along with writing under Vicodin and writing lyrics, I also do these history poems, as Tom told you. And Anne Hutchinson is somebody who interested me very much. She lived in the 1600s, but she was in some ways an extremely modern woman. And she ended up getting kicked out of Boston by the Puritan fathers because she was too outspoken for their taste. She, in fact, had been educated by her own father, who was a separatist minister who wasn't allowed to preach. And he used all his energy teaching her to do biblical exegesis. So she could argue from the Bible really well. Better than the ministers, which did not endear her to them. There's a wonderful part in the transcripts of when she was on trial where she's asked why she has permission to teach men, because she gives these lectures in her house and people come and listen. And she methodically goes through 2 places in the Bible, which she can do chapter and verse, of situations where women did teach men. And the judges say, no, that won't do. And finally she says, what do you want? You want me to show you my name in the Bible? So, you know, she was cooked. Out. And one of the things that's fun about writing these historical narratives is that I start out going back to my old being a history major and try and just drown myself in period detail. And after a while, I can almost channel the characters. So I started with Anne Hutchinson as a little girl. Anne Marbury is a small girl in Alford, Lincolnshire, England, Christendom. Here is the center of the world, bounded by seas. I am Anne, Anne is me. I paddle my hands in the puddle, and I talk to the frogs. There is mud on my hem, thick black mud. Why am I always in trouble? Reverend Francis Marbury is under house arrest for preaching against the Church of England. Would you like to come and sit? There are chairs here. One there, one there. You'll be quite safe. Sure. Papa's finger, longer than my hand. My older sisters learn their stitches, and I my letters. Our queen reads, that was Elizabeth, so why not Anne? Other fathers go about in the world, but not mine. We sit in the parlor picking out A's, Adam, Abraham, Anne. Papa teaches me names. Anne is the mother of Virgin Mary. Anne is baby Jesus' own granny. Anne is me. Mama beckons from the kitchen. Small fingers to pluck the chicken. Papa answers from the parlor. We are busy now, I and Anne. The big news of 1603. And this is a quote from James I, who came to the throne after Elizabeth. James said, I am the husband, and the whole isle is my lawful wife. I am the head, and it is the body. The big news of 1603. By the marketplace of Alford they toll the bell. Papa says Queen Bess is dead. I know her bishops were popish, but I liked her dresses. Maybe she'll go to hell. Now we will get King James. He hates midwives and mystics and churches and kitchens. He says, the more women, the more witches. Well, shame on you, James. I may only be 12, but I'd witch you myself with a willow switch. Annie, calls my mother, go stir the pot. So I do as I'm told, but I'd rather that I were a stirrer of souls. Now I read scripture alone. No one to pick out meanings for me. My father is dead, an amputation in my brain. Words I hold in my memory I hear in his voice. How will I learn on my own? I try to think. Francis Marbury, only a name. Today the North Sea clouds and the cold North Sea are the same gray color. I open the cover of my father's Bible. Survival, redemption, and resurrection, body and soul, how Papa's words will hold me. The night before my own father died, I told him I was thinking about writing about Anne Hutchinson. And then we had dinner and he died in his sleep. And I think part of the reason I wrote about Anne is because she was so shaped by her father. So here's the only poem where I really speak. Here another daughter speaks backwards and forwards across the years. This, the vastness of grief, how it creeps into each day like a fresh loss, missing him breathing, another daughter bereft, left alone, with a part of my mind formed to his masculine mode. Whatever happens next, wherever I go from here, my father will never know it. But that doesn't matter, because I have become two people. If I want to know what my dead father would think, I can always summon the him in me. We've got one seat up here. Right there. The governor of Massachusetts, of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, was Governor Winthrop. And he was first okay about Anne, but then he started getting nervous because the city, the town, started breaking into followers of Anne and people opposed to her. And that made him very nervous. Why, I, Governor Winthrop, am increasingly troubled for our colony. Nobody calls me fool. I know too well what stows aboard each returning ship. Gossip and tales. If news of this local commotion should reach London, we face heavy consequences. Our whole Massachusetts Bay Charter could be preemptively withdrawn. We are the city on the hill. We are the city on the hill. We are the city. We are. Therefore, we must keep our own house in order. Why does Mr. Hutchinson fail to control his wife? And now back to Anne. I never knew I was so powerful. Yet, having no gun, no sword, nor masculine organ, I still have words. Imagine if I had been pretty. So Anne was kicked out, and I have some interesting dates to tell you. She was kicked out of Massachusetts in 1638, where she and her family went to Rhode Island. And in 1922, a statue of Anne Hutchinson was erected in front of the Massachusetts State House in Boston. In 1945, the banishment order was finally revoked. In 1987, Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis pardoned Anne Hutchinson. And it wasn't until 2005 that the statue was finally dedicated. So she is still quite a presence. And many of the things, I don't want to go into a political rant here, so this will be a rantlet. But some of the things that happened in Boston when they were trying to shut her up were just amazingly familiar, dirty political tricks. People spied on her. They had an election for new administration of the colony, and they didn't tell any of her followers where the election was being held. I mean, it was just remarkable what went on. And she was, in some ways, almost a medieval mystic, because she didn't want the church to tell her anything. She felt she could look into her soul and know truth. But she also was a very modern woman. And while she was making all this trouble, she had 15 children. So she is a fascinating character. Okay. So I'm going to read to you from my new book called Six Lips. And if you want to know why it was six lips, I'll start with the center section called Counting the Body. I won't read it all. One tail, please. Is a tail too much to ask? But I care what kind. Nothing stumpy. A great feathery plume, a gorgeous tail, a glorious flag of a tail happily visible over the hedges. Yes, you can bet I'll be wagging it just like my dog wags her own golden and white appendage, and I'll gladly cut tail holes in all my best clothes. This is no trivial promise. My grandmother taught me the buttonhole stitch. I sat on her porch and practiced until my thread didn't tangle. Then I could ride my bike. A second-hand Schwinn I named Black Beauty. Sometimes the bicycle was the horse, and sometimes I was the horse. Fast and wild we circled the block, pedaled past neighbors until they all disappeared. We galloped into that secret place, our manes and magnificent tails flying out backwards, wind from some faraway sea trembling in our turned ears. 2. On the night I have 2 vaginas. I will try to discover 2 shy men who cannot admit they love men. I'll invite them both into my bed and guide them each to embed a veined penis in a wet vagina, each man mindless of vaginas, but both touching my open body so closely, they believe the body they touch is flesh of one another. Treasure my gift. I offer no other. 3. The uses of 3 ears. My left ear listens only to truth. The right records what's false. A bird chimes, also a clock. One of them lies. Now ask me about my 3rd ear. It listens best. It lurks under my left breast to hear what risks coming true. This is a blood journey. Your lover forgets you, and the dog is dead. Woman with 4 tongues. First is my tongue of fire. It singes the wind. Kings and scholars cover their eyes. Next is a tongue of honey, furred with bees and the shadows of bees. My honeyed tongue hums in the meadows. My 3rd is the tongue of infinite silence. It is the wisest. And the last is my tongue of snow. Flakes melt as it touches the sky. When my sister and I were tiny girls, we stood in the back hall, tongue to tongue. It was always icky, and we always kept trying it. Now all my 4 tongues are thirsting to lick the closed lids of your eyes. First, feel my tongue of fire. And I'll jump ahead to 6 lips. 6 lips to sip the sublime, 2 for the mouth and 4 for the vulva, plump as succulents, shining with dew. Ah, youth, ah, time. Snakes. The hopes of snakes are mostly horizontal, twisty in grassland and wise beyond their skins. Snakes dream under rocks until sunlight splotches the June meadow, yellow and blue, and clouds cast hot shadows. In this meadow I stand dreaming of the man at the bank, how he lured me into the vault where I wept for the lack of money. Always my children were busy outgrowing their shoes. Always my children drank all the milk, ate all the biscuits. The snakes are sunning their ripples in slow streaks. The snakes are ribbons splayed in the pages of my old cookbook. Its spine is cracked, its pages stained with butter. I love to caress the scales of snakes. They feel like expensive leather, almost as good as paying my whole electric bill at once. Eric and I moved here from New Jersey in 2001, October. My hard East Coast heart. We were moving to the West. We were busy arguing about which stuff to bring and which stuff to throw out. He was listening to the radio. I was making more boxes. He heard it on the radio, so he turned on the television. I was taping boxes. He watched the second jet hit. I was stacking boxes. Everything fell down. I kept on piling up boxes. After it happened and kept re-happening, he wouldn't throw anything away. I said, "You'll use any excuse." But there weren't any excuses. I had packed up my heart in bubble wrap and trucked it mountain ranges away. Poor dear. I don't like penises very much, she said. It's life with a 2-year-old. Me. You're trying to cook or sleep or read, and here's Sir Penis plump with need, poking the folds of your skirt, whopping your leg, begging. Men are okay, she said, but penises make me tired. It's the stare I don't care for, that one glistening eye. Thank God I don't have one except by marriage. Imagine the drag, trailing it around like some third leg, or a mailing tube packed with explosives. A dumb joke. But he looked so sad, her heart broke. Ah, sweetie, she said, I didn't mean it, what I just said, and took him to bed. The shadow. The shadow of the leaf is more engrossing than the leaf. Moment after a kiss, moment before a murder, nothing has come of nothing and won't, or hasn't yet. Now I imagine I sent the president a sonnet, and the president sent me a gun. I would dandle the gun in my lap like a baby, or a map, or a glass basin for augury, or the slimy net I found by the pond. We are all candle wasters under the sun. Whatever a tadpole learns from a frog, the tadpole is bound to forget. I think tadpoles think about water in the same way I thought about time, testing my fresh feet. I thought that story plots made sense, like a peony, or symphony, or sympathy, or the blinking and perforated shadow of one leaf of the copper beech, wide-branched beech tree, where I turned gold-illuminated pages. It was summer. It was always summer. Only Abe Lincoln had ever been shot. The sun set late. My sister and I never got old. The long Russian movie of my life. I might as well wear my dead aunt's fur cloche and the long-haired wrap with tails at both ends. The sleek winter wolves are tracking the carriage, and I'd rather be mouthed by wolves than breathe the popcorn gone rancid with train oil my Cineplex uses for butter. How I wanted to fling myself under the wheels, to turn into a dime flattened on steel, to rest hot and thin above shattered glass, that glitter of diamonds and brown and green. Don't go down by the tracks, said my grandmother, where men do things to girls. But mostly it seemed like they spat and peed, which was much less scary than some of the men I would end up marrying. Or the raw night I squatted in weeds by the siding because it was safer than going home. Always the perfume of creosote, always the tall black engine approaching, the eye of the headlamp growing enormous. Heart failure. This one's a little longer. Part 1. This is the year I would like to find pity. I would like to hurt for my mother the way I ache for my children whenever anything major goes wrong in their lives. I want to feel vicariously glamorous when she models the umber cashmere sweater she bought half price in the overpriced boutique by her favorite sushi shop. I would like to gasp for breath whenever she grabs for her oxygen tube and jiggles the prongs into sore nostrils. I want to tremble and feel confused when she can't retrieve email messages and starts to panic. When her skeletal legs burn under sheets, I wish my own hard-muscled calves would throb. I want to be sad that she's 87 and fading. I want to invent memories of how she encouraged me when I was a child, how she helped me when I was a young mother, how understanding she was when I got divorced. Or else I want to stop caring. Meanwhile, my mother masters forgetting which museum she means to visit, the name of the play she saw yesterday, what day it is today. This is the year I intend to excavate my terror, melt down my resentment, blow it into molten orange glass, shape it into a shining sculpture of one enormous woman, and cool it and smash it. My mother has become tiny and pathetic and brave. Recently she has learned thank you, or even please. She lives in her elegant house like a black pearl from a broken oyster, drifting under reefs in a bay. She lives in her house like a startled rabbit, unable to finish crossing the road. If I had enough pity, I would dare to squeeze her fragile neck and kiss her forehead as I press down on her windpipe and keep on pressing with my strong and generous thumbs. 2. These days, my mother surprises me, slowed, gentled, taking trees into account. It's not what I'm used to, this appreciation. Watching the squirrels scamper up black bark like acrobats of joy, while the long afternoon withdraws into twilight, her mechanical tide of oxygen yawing through waves and troughs of breathlessness. This drowning old lady is not my mother, not abrupt. As I stroke her knuckles, grace glints in our salt hands. Daily phone call to my mother. What she told me on Thursday. You can bring your dog. I love every dog that comes. I love the flowers. I love the rain on the terrace. I love the Buddha. I'm loved by everyone who comes around, and I love everybody. My vocabulary is not what it used to be. I think I'm in the way. What she said today. Isn't it wonderful? All the wonderful years, so many beautiful things, the white lilies. It's so hard to become old and so old. I should hurry up and die and get out of the way. Okay, I'm going to eat now. And what she may say or not tomorrow. And I'm going to end with one more poem about my mother. I am pregnant with my mother's death. I grow great with her decline. When shall I be delivered? I'll be there tomorrow, I say on the phone. She's amazed when I arrive. Have you met my aide? She asks politely. The same kind aide she's had for months. She remembers to worry. Do you need more blankets? Her radio loud in the airless house, the oxygen machine humming and spitting as she curls on a waterproof pad. Ooh, she moans in her sleep. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. I love you. Oh. I wake her. A gradual smile blooms. I'm embarrassed, she laughs, to be such a bag of bones. Her shrunken skeleton kicks at my heart and inside my belly. I'm the luckiest woman in the world, she tells me again. I'm the luckiest woman in the world. Or else, she says, I'm the loveliest woman in the world, and doesn't notice any difference. She touches my cheek. This is something new in our shared lives. how she turns so gentle. I labor hard with her. Forgiveness loosens my stubborn bones. I am swollen with her love for me. When shall I be delivered? She died last April. Thank you very much.